Hello, everyone. I've got a very interesting guest today who's also my friend. I've got Dr. Sandra Lopez, who's a clinical psychologist. Hello, Sandra. How are you?
Hello, Michelle. I'm fine. Yourself?
Yes, I'm great. Thank you. I'm so happy that you've been able to come on today because we're going to talk about a subject which is not normally something that I would talk about on my channel.
Mhm.
But I think it's a very important subject, and you and I have talked about it often. And I thought it might be an idea to bring the subject to my viewers. And then
Mhm.
if they feel like they want to reach out later, then that's what they can do. So I'll just introduce Sandra. Uh, Dr. Sandra Lopez is a clinical psychologist. You've been doing that for 17 years, I understand.
Mhm. Yeah.
And you have got a background in helping people with substance abuse, suicide, and aggressive behavior. But in being involved in those situations over the 17 years, what you found has happened is that you've moved more into the area of domestic violence, both on men and
Yes.
women. And it's
Mhm.
kind of led you now, it's kind of become your passion. All this experience that you've had over the years, it's led you towards this, making this niche area that you work in domestic violence. So, first of
Mhm.
all, Sandra, can you explain to us what is the definition of domestic violence? What does that actually mean?
It's abuse. Abuse. In a small word, it's abuse. There are several kinds of domestic violence, several kinds of abuse, as we all know. Um, but it is always, I mean, the person always disappear. Okay, you stop being yourself. You stop do what you like to do. You start being scared of giving your opinion. And this normally tends to go in a very smooth and slow way. You don't even notice. Many people, they're not even aware. They don't feel right. They start suffering from anxiety. And sometimes they don't understand why. And normally, what leads them to, when they're not aware, what leads them to me, what they come to me because they start having panic attacks.
Hmm.
This is very interesting because they're not aware. And then they go in therapy and we start talking about things. And I do what I know how to do because I've studied to do that. And then they realize they are actually being abused.
So, what is the pattern exactly of this abuse? What does it look like? What is happening to these people in their relationships that is causing this abusive cycle? What does it look like? What's actually happening to them?
I mean, it's not as easy as that because we have different levels of abuse. We talk sometimes there is a disease like if you are a narcissist or there, but sometimes there isn't. Not everybody's a psychopath. Not everybody's a narcissist to abuse either. You don't, sometimes it's just the ego, sometimes it's the country, the nationality. Because if we're talking about Latin countries, men tend to consider themselves superior, right? And that is also already a form of abuse because you are a woman, you can't do whatever you want. He's a man, he can. So we have different levels in here. But if we're talking about, for example, there is no social classes for this. Some people tend to think that this is happening in low social classes, like people with no money or no education. That is totally not true. You can see these in high classes as well, and they tend to hide because they feel so embarrassed.
Mm.
So
Yes.
it's many things And we don't have, I can't tell you like, how does it look like? I can't. I mean, there are some things that, imagine if I'm sitting in a coffee shop and there is a couple in front of me. I mean, some things I look and I know there is some kind of abuse in there by the way they behave,
Mm.
you know. But it does not have a face, Michelle. And this is exactly a problem. When you go to a doctor and you have a cancer, you have some disease, some kind of disease, there is a face to it. Domestic violence, there is no face. You can't see, because sometimes there is a couple and they look very happy in public, and then they get home and he beats her up.
Yeah. And
some women turn up dead, and they, you know, people get shocked because, oh, you know, they were the happiest couple that you ever seen. So really, there is no face to it because it's between four walls, isn't it?
so in my sort of experience of being a spiritual coach, I've come across obviously people with lots of different things going on in their homes and their personal life. And one of the things that I've kind of noticed with this pattern associated with sort of domestic violence is that the women don't necessarily understand that they're in domestic violence. They just come with low self-esteem, and they're kind of now in a very victimized or victim role, and they don't understand necessarily why they're there. They don't, and then they continue to act in a victim role, and the cycle continues. So how do we approach that if people don't even really understand or know that they're in that situation?
Don't.
Right.
You don't approach, because you cannot help somebody that doesn't even know that they need help. You can't help somebody that they don't want your help, or they're too scared sometimes to ask. So these videos and all that I do, because I mean, I've been helping so many people over the years, and sometimes you don't know what's going on, and you just imagine that someone is in that kind of situation and watch a video, my video or somebody else's video, and then they realize, they go like, oh, you know, I have this is what's happening to me, and then they will go and search for more. If you have loads of information, as much as information you can, it's easier to understand where you're standing, right? If you don't have any information at all, if you don't talk with anybody, how can you know? Because this is something that it's done over the years. Look, if I go to work, we all energy, and you know better than me about energy. We all energy. If I work with 10 people, imagine, and if every day I get there depressive, upset, in bad mood, it's contagious. After a while, everybody, you know, it's moody as well. And if I'm, you know, a very happy person, it's also contagious. So this is the same. You have somebody putting stuff in your mind over the months and over the years, every day, like, you're not good enough, for example. Oh, you know, everything you do is wrong. But sometimes they don't, at the beginning, they don't say this like this. They say it in a very mild way. You don't, you know, you start questioning yourself. That's how they do it. And after 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, you have words in your mind that it doesn't belong to you. Someone put it there. And then you start acting on that. You have self-esteem, it's really low, self-respect, self-love. You know, you feel like there is something wrong with you. And the anxiety is always there. Sometimes you develop depressions, all because of this. And you're not even aware what happened to you. And then if you are able to stop and you look back before you met that person, you were a totally different person.
This is true.
You know.
And the other sort of interesting thing is that it normally starts, and we're not just talking about this happening to women. We know that this also happens to men, but in the majority of my experiences, it's normally been women that have spoken to me about this problem. And one of the common themes that I normally hear is that in the beginning, this person, this man in their life, was so loving, was love bombing them. You know, they couldn't do enough for this. They would bring them flowers and take them out and give them the best of everything, and were very attentive. All the time, like 100%. And then it's almost like it switches, but they don't remember exactly why or when the switch happened. But what starts to happen is this behavior that you were talking about. It starts to change gradually from you being on a pedestal to then suddenly you look around one day. This is what, you know, what these women explained to me, that then you look around one day and suddenly everything you're doing is no longer good enough, and you're told you know, that it's because of the way that you're acting that is the problem, and that they're just pointing it out. So that process of coming in strong at the beginning, that sounds a bit like a warning sign. So how do you, if you're a woman and you're out and you're searching for your ideal mate, if there is such a thing, how do you differentiate between what is a healthy amount of someone being interested in you and what is or could potentially be this kind of love bombing behavior? Is there a way to notice that at the beginning?
I mean, if everything is so perfect, there's something wrong. This is the easiest way to know, because there is no such thing as perfection. And it's only human that when we meet someone, we want to put our very best out there. This is human. But then, you know, if it's perfect, that's no longer human, is it? So I normally, to my patients that's been abused before and they are now, you know, getting themselves ready and taking care of themselves so they can move forward and go in another relationship, what I normally tell them is look for the bad things, not for the good. Because the good things, we all know how to deal with good things. We don't learn anything from good things. Good thing is just a nice feeling. Okay. Well, we don't grow up. We unfortunately, we grow up through the pain, right? So if you look for the bad things, because we all have bad things, we all have a dark side. Now, maybe I can deal well with your dark side, but I can't deal well. For instance, I don't, and I don't mean to take this personally, but I don't deal with lies. I can't. Okay, I have like a trauma with lies. I can't stand it. So if I know that, but maybe other person is all right with little lies or little omissions, you know. But it's my choice. I have the right to choose if I want to deal with that kind of dark side or not, right? So I look for those things. If you look for the bad things, then you decide, okay, you know, this person lies, so I cannot deal with that person.
Yeah.
That's it. Because, you know, but if there is, imagine someone is lazy and I'm okay with it. I mean, laziness is not a quality, is it? But if I can deal well with that, that's fine. So basically, I don't look for the good things. I look for the bad things, because it's exactly in the bad things that the relation will go down.
Yeah.
Right. And I believe that everything that comes out of a passion that makes you blind, it's not a good path. As far as I'm concerned, a healthy relationship, it has to be based in friendship. Okay, because when things start going down, if you wouldn't do something to a friend And if that's your friend, you're not going to do that to that person, even if the things go wrong.
Yeah.
Go wrong. And also the dialogue. And this is something that I try to work a lot with these women, because these people that been abused, they got used in being in silence. They don't tell to the partners exactly how they feel or what they think, because they fear their reaction. It's like they start stepping on eggshells, and they lose the ability of having a dialogue. And a healthy relationship, it's a relationship where you have the dialogues and you can talk about the things that they're really uncomfortable, but you talk about them without having to have an argument, right? I can sit down and talk about something very uncomfortable. Now, if you are meeting that person, this is to answering to you, and if you notice that that person did something because normally if you observe the words, what they say, it does not match them with what they do. So they say, for example, they say, oh, you know, I love music. I can't live without music. I love music. Okay. And then if there is a party, live music, and she goes like, oh, you know, there is party there, music there, let's go. Oh, you know, I don't really feel like going. I don't really like those kind of so it doesn't match, does it? Do you know what I'm coming from?
Yeah.
But they're so much in love that they can't see none of this. But if you use your rational part and emotional part, and the secret is in the balance. You can't get like all emotional, all rational, because if you're all rational, you act like a machine as well. So it has to be a balance in here. And if he says something, and if he does something totally different of what he said, that's a problem in there. You should really be aware. Because why do they say that, oh, I love live music, for example?
Yeah.
Because he knows that you like that. And he is going to tell you what he knows that you want to listen. That's how they conquer you, right?
Yeah.
So then you come to a point that you say, oh my God, this man is my twin soul. He likes everything that I like. You know, everything. We are equal, we're the same. Well, that's what he's telling you. That's what he's feeding you. And then in the field, you start wanting to do all those things because you came to the conclusion that you're equal. And then he acts totally different. He starts acting totally different. But by that time, you don't see it.
Yeah.
You don't. And this is the biggest red flag ever. So my advice is look for the last nice things, the annoying things, that we all have, the dark side. Look for those things, because those things are exactly the things that is going to lead to failure. And, a plan is only a plan. You have to adjust the plan along the way, because there are no such thing as perfect plans.
No.
You make a plan, and then along the way, you realize that you have to adjust. So I don't know. And the prevention had to start in teenage years.
Yes.
It had to start there, because you can see domestic violence and abuse with 15, 16 years old. They want, for example, the phone passwords. The password is something private. I don't have to give to anybody. And, so
I hear
prevention.
I do actually in my work see teenage girls that are already, like you said, in this cycle. Very young girls haven't even left school yet, are already being told what they can and can't do by the opposite.
And Michelle, as you know, I'm a teacher as well. I'm a teacher, and I'm also a teacher, and I'm a secondary teacher. So
Right.
daily, I deal with teenagers, and I see that.
Mm.
How is this even possible? So
Yeah.
we all have to go to schools. I mean, I've tried, but it's very hard to get in the system. I've tried to go to schools and give speech, to make these girls be aware. Because if they grow up like that, and then if they have the first boyfriend that wants to, the password, or he doesn't want her to, wear a miniskirt or whatever, and then she comes from a not very structured home, she thinks this is all normal. So
Yes.
unless someone goes there and say, hey, that's not normal, that is not right.
So,
So
Sandra,
at least to start them. Sorry.
this behavior of the male, let's just do it that way around for now. We do know obviously that men have abuse as well, but just for the examples, this behavior where a male or a young teen who's male tells you what you can and can't wear, tries to control where you go, who you speak to, wants to know your password, that sort of thing. Where is that coming from? Where have they got that behavior from? Is this a male trait that we as women have to learn to navigate with all men by putting down boundaries? Or,
Of course.
or is this in some men because of some trauma they've had or some programming they've had in their growing up experience? Which one is it? I mean, do these men?
It's both.
Right.
It's both, Michelle, both. For example, again, depending which country you're from, nationality and culture plays a big part in this. But, for example, a girl or a boy that comes from a broken home, what are they going to do? They're going to reproduce the behavior. So if it's a boy, he's going to be abusing someone else, or sometimes they are the ones getting abused.
Mm.
Sometimes when you are a victim, you become an aggressor. We see these a lot. Or, a girl that used to see her mom getting, and then if the boyfriend gets there and say, give me your password, she will. Because this is what she sees. We always reproduce the behaviors of our parents. We are young children, babies, young children. We don't have a saying, right? We have to do what our parents tell us to do. And then we grow up like that. One day you can, if you study and if you connecting to other people and if you're keeping yourself informed, then you can become to the conclusion saying, hey, what my father did to my mom or vice versa, that was not right. I don't want that for myself. And then you can break the chain in there. But this requires work.
Yeah.
Because what is normal in us is to reproduce behaviors that we've been exposed for so many years. How many times? I'm sure you've heard, if not yourself, it happened to myself. And it happens to me. How many times we say, like, we look at our parents and we say, do you know what? I don't want to be doing that. I will never do what my mom. And then one day you will end up doing exactly the same. Right?
Yeah.
And this does not have to be, this is in the good behavior, but also in the bad behavior. We all reproduce behaving of some other. Some people, they don't have parents, so they've been brought up, imagine, with an uncle, or they look for a teacher and they reproduce the teacher behavior. You see, because we all, as a human being, look for a reference. We need a reference. Otherwise, we're growing up without nothing. We need a reference to chase, to follow our path. So we always, for example, girls, get in a toxic relationship, they abuse, and then they, all the relationships that she has, she's a victim. She's being abused. What does this tell us? We have to go back to her childhood and see what was in there. What was the parents' relationship between them and towards her? What caused, her to behave in such a way that she only attracts aggressors? I mean, I'm not saying that it's her fault, right? So don't get me wrong, but we need to look into this. Definitely. That's how you treat.
So if somebody is listening today and they feel like they might be in a relationship with an aggressor, what would be the steps that you would recommend that they take to start moving forward? Because in my experience speaking to people in this situation, the problem is once they realize that something's wrong and they try to change it, then the aggressor becomes more violent and it all gets much worse. And there are even threats, to their life or to their children's lives. So if someone's listening today and they feel like something that you've said resonates with where they are in their life, how do they go about finding help or more information? What should they do?
I mean, first of all, they should stop and think what they want. This doesn't sound important, but it is, because many women, they say, oh, I want to leave this. I don't want to be here anymore. But then they go back and they change their mind over and over again. It's very frequent. They say, okay, I'm going to leave. And then when the time comes, you got the help in there, you got a place to go. Just, imagine who doesn't. But even when they do have, they give up. Okay. Even when they go to the police and press charges, for these to end up in court, the charge has to remain there. Sometimes they go and they take, they get back. It's a mixture of things, and the fear, it's there, and they believe that they are in love with that person. Some situations, this is what but I love him. I can't live without him. Well, that's not love, is it? So what shall they do? They should think, what do they want? Is it the right way for them, the right time for them? Are they really ready for what comes ahead? If they don't have any family or any friends, they always have to go to the police anyway, Michelle. And I know this sometimes doesn't work, but at least it's a way of protecting themselves. Because if there is something in the police already, if something happened later on, it was already something there. Now, I would strongly advise to talk with somebody. They can't do it on their own unless they have lots of money. If you have lots of money, it's very easy. Just grab your things, get a fly, and change country. At least for a while. And this can sound extreme, but if they have money, that money is not going to be a problem, because the biggest problem here is always the money. They depend on them. They make these women depending on them. And without money and with him controlling all the finances, they can't go anywhere, right? So if they have money, just move away, go to another city, go to another country, just go, at least for a while until you get yourself sorted. If you don't have money, depending which country you are, you need to look for help. Government often has offices in town hall. I do know that in Portugal it's one, and sometimes they are able to move that woman if that woman is life threatened, because I'm used to deal with very serious cases where you actually have to take the woman out of the house and move that woman to another city, and they go to these homes that the government gives to them.
Yeah.
Okay, so you know, to do that, you need to reach for help. Now, there are serious situations where you are actually locked at home. He goes to work and you lock the woman at home. You can't get out.
Yeah. I've had clients in my work where that's actually what's happening to them. They actually get
Yeah, yeah.
locked into rooms. Um, some years ago, the partner was actually unplugging the landline telephone
Yeah,
and
yeah, yeah.
wrapping up the cord and taking the phone with them so that the person had no way of calling outside.
Do you
So
know, Michelle, I'm sorry to interrupt you. I feel so much like saying what I know that it has to be done here, but I can't. I can't say it because, okay, what I'm saying here is sometimes the only way of you to get away from this, it's breaking the law. Well, not breaking the law, not committing some crime. It's not what it is.
what I think you're saying is, first of all, you have to be clear in your mind of
Definitely.
what it is you actually are going to do and why you're going to do it, because it's not going to be easy.
No.
And you're going to have lots of doubts, and you're probably going to be told by this person that they're going to change. So you have to be,
Oh, always.
yes, they're always
Always.
going to change. So you have to be clear in your mind of a plan, what's ahead of you. And
Definitely.
you need to reach out as much as possible, either to the police or to friends or to family, to
To
try
everybody that you can.
and find a way. And
Yeah.
I assume as well that if you have maybe a backup bag with perhaps clothes, some money,
That's what I said to my last video. Yeah.
yes, that then
That's what I
you know,
said. You always have to have that. Yeah.
so they if in that moment they feel now is the time they want to do it or they can do it, that they're ready, that they can make their move. But the
Yeah.
other thing
Save
is,
money. Save money.
yes, because
Get a way of, because they control the money. You know, we all intelligent people anyway. And save the most money as you can because you will need it. You will need it.
so if you're a friend of somebody who you think might be in this situation, um, it's often, if you try to say something to them, they don't understand it. They think that you actually are jealous of their relationship. They can't
Because
often hear what you're trying to do or say. They so what would you suggest in that situation? Because you can only go so far, and then they reject
yeah.
you. You're the one trying to do the help.
I mean, they tell you that, they answer that to you because that's what they tell them. You see, very often, sometimes I met once this lady that she, for 3 years, she was having this relationship that she thought it was the best thing in the world, and nobody knew that she was having a relationship because basically the guy just was telling her, don't tell anybody, because if people knows about us, they're gonna destroy us because they're so jealous. So, so when you say something to somebody and somebody, you know, thinks it's out of jealousy that you're saying that, that's because that's what the guys are putting in their mind. But what would you do in that situation? I mean, you just let that person now that whenever she comes to her senses, you're going to be there to support her. This is the most important thing, because many people, the biggest problem is that they don't have anybody and that nobody knows, and sometimes they are too embarrassed to, you know, to tell even to family. I mean, if, for example, someone beats up a woman, she's so embarrassed to tell her friends and family. She won't say it.
Well, often
It's not on.
is that anything that is done to you, you're being told it's your fault and that no one's
Exactly.
going to believe you. So
Exactly.
women that I've spoken to, the pattern seems to be that they're told that, you're creating this problem. It's your, I have to do these things to you because you are the problem. And so
Exactly.
then the women feel embarrassed and have low self-esteem and are then unable
Mhm.
to reach out because they believe, after years and years and years maybe of this perpetual dialogue, they don't actually know that that's not really true. They believe
But
that
you
that's the
see,
truth.
exactly. But you see, Michelle, if you let someone know, if you, for example, that friend that you were talking about, if you let her know that you're always going to be there for her, when she decides that she no longer wants to be in that situation, she will reach out to you. So basically, but you need to let her know. Something like, look, I don't know if you are aware or not, but you don't look the same person anymore. This is what I would tell to a friend. You don't look the same person anymore. You changed a lot. I'm concerned about you. You don't look well. And I don't mean to tell you what to do. It's up to you. But if you need help, reach out to me, because no matter what, I'll be there. This is what the person needs to hear. You can't do anything else, because you can't force. Most of the women, they even when they get beaten up, they still think that they are in love. It's unbelievable, but it's true. This is reality. So it's very tricky. It has to come from them. They have to give this step. And if you're a friend of a person suffering, with something like this, the only thing that you have to make sure is that she knows that you're going to be there no matter what.
Yeah, this is
So
very
it's
important.
only that.
I agree.
Yeah.
So we've talked about women a lot, but what kind of percentage are we looking at in terms of this happening, say, to men? What's the ratio of men becoming the victim of domestic violence?
We don't know.
You don't
Do you
know?
know why? No, because they don't go ahead with it. They don't go forward because they're too embarrassed. I mean, there is a small, as much as we know, there is a small percentage compared to women, but men tend to hide. They don't want to expose themselves or seen as fragile. And if a man goes and say that he's being abused and is a victim of domestic violence, that makes him look very fragile. And men always try to protect themselves in this way.
Mm, mm.
So, I mean, I've worked with some men, but not many. I can tell you maybe 2 or 3 over the years. And they were very embarrassed, and one of, very embarrassed.
Yeah.
So we don't know the percentage exactly. We have no way to know. You see, because we only deal with percentage and radius if people actually press charges, right? Without this, it's impossible to know. And they don't do it very often. I mean, some men, they remain in the relationship forever. They don't leave.
Mm.
And it's sad to see, really.
So,
And this proves that it doesn't have to do with muscle and and stronger. No, because a man tends to be physically stronger than a woman. This tells us that domestic violence, it's not always about the
well,
physical part. It's here.
in my experience of speaking to people, it's like a programming. So it's not about the physique, the size, or anything like that. It's more to do with the mind gets programmed to think a certain way. And because they associate that person with somebody they love, then they trust and believe that message that they're getting.
Absolutely.
So it's programmed into them that this is what love looks like. So then it's very difficult to say that that isn't what, if you're on the outside and you come in and you're trying to help, they don't understand that that isn't necessarily what love looks like at all. And then this is something they have to be, aware of. They have to suddenly look at this situation that they've never really thought about before, and often they can't do it because they're associating this behavior with being loved. So this is another thing.
That, you see, that comes from home. You see what we were talking about before. These all come from your childhood. The way the way you see it, love, what is love for me, it may not be to the other person. If we come from very different backgrounds, we have the conception of love or any other things totally different from each other. So, but with men it's totally different. But you see, in this kind of abuse, there is always a thing called gaslighting. Always. And gaslighting is something that drives a person mad. You put yourself in doubt so much that you start believing that you are a failure, and you're so blessed that you have someone with you. Even if that someone beats you up, you consider yourself blessed because there is something so wrong with you. You are such a big loser, and that person loves you. And this is gaslighting. That person over the years. Look, I remember a situation that it's unbelievable, but this husband used to hide things from her. Imagine, we all get home and we put the keys in several places, right? We have this kind of mechanism so we don't lose our head. Anyway, so she used to put the keys there, and then he hides the keys. She goes there. This is just an example that I remember now. She goes there, and she goes, "Oh, where is my key? Have you seen my key?" And he goes like, "You're always the same. You always keep on losing stuff all the time. It's unbelievable. No, I haven't seen your keys." So she searched the entire house for the keys. And then he puts back the keys in the same place. And then "Oh, keys is here." And he goes like, "You see, you're losing it. You are mad. You see what I have to deal with every day? The keys was always there and you didn't see it." And he does this every single day with several items. Now, you imagine what this can do to a person after a few years.
Yes. So
this is gaslighting.
I actually had a client where the example she gave was quite similar, where this person would suddenly be leaving for 1 week to go on some seminar or something where they needed to go away from the home. And she had a young baby and wasn't coping very well and was saying, "But you didn't tell me that you were going." And she was getting upset because, obviously she hadn't planned it. She didn't know he was going. And this man would tell her, "See, I told you this, but you must be going crazy." And this would happen a lot. So things like coming home late, she was told that he had said that to her when he hadn't. And dates and appointments would change until in the end, she didn't know her own mind. And with the stress of being a new mum and having probably some mild level of
the pressure.
So maybe some postnatal depression was also involved. But then the person who was repeatedly changing these plans and arrangements and saying that he had told her just added to her feelings of, "I'm losing my mind." So
exactly. Then they really believe in that.
Yeah, so these techniques seem to be like a classic thing that happens. Yeah. Can you say any other sort of classic things that you've noticed that happen? Things like the keys and saying that they had told you they were going away or something like that.
More classical things like in the gaslighting?
Yeah, I mean, what other examples have you witnessed?
I mean, one thing that I find it very interesting is that women believe that they possessive because they care, they worried about them, and this because for me and you, if we see someone, for example, a husband going through the phone, or checking her phone, or checking everything, or for example, I had a lady that the husband used to put petrol in her car, so he controls how much petrol she spends.
Yeah, I understand.
Or for example, the supermarkets, she used to do the supermarket online, because she made her believe that supermarkets were terrible places, and why would she go there, and she didn't want her to be carrying weight, so she could order online. And then his card was the card that the shopping was being paid for, right? So this means that she has no access to the money at all. He controls everything. And then this woman believes that he really, really cares about her so much that makes her life easier in every way.
Mm. Mm.
So
Yeah.
do you know, and this is very hard. That's why, if you, like what you were saying before, Michelle, if you get to a woman in this situation and you tell her something like, but don't you see what he's doing? She doesn't. And
Mm.
she gets upset with you, right? So sometimes, and it's very sad to say this, but sometimes it's easier to manage these situations and to help this woman when they're victims of physical damage. When they beat them up, it's easier because they get faster to a point where they say, okay, I don't want to be here anymore. It's easier to deal with this than it is when there is no physical damage at all. It's all mind, is what you were saying. It's like they're programming their minds. It's not like, they're programming their minds. So, and the jealousy, it's always there as
It's
well.
obviously easier as well to show a physical bruise or a broken bone, but it's
Yeah.
very difficult to show to the police or to somebody, if you have sort of managed to get yourself in front of somebody, um, to explain how this behavior is affecting your mind and how
Mm-hmm.
you're afraid or anxious, because that, to the greater extent, is not a crime for someone to make you feel anxious. So
Oh,
it's a very difficult process.
it's
So
very hard.
yes. So you have set up an association. Which
Yeah.
country is that? Is that
It's
worldwide?
in Portugal. It's Portugal.
Okay, and it's called the SOS Point.
Yes.
And
And then there is another word suite, but it's in Portuguese, which means help without judging. That's the
okay,
name of the association.
so if somebody is
Um,
watching, like from another country, um, could they still reach out to you and you could guide them perhaps to resources in the country that they're in?
of course,
They could
of
still,
course, of course.
they could still approach you even though your
Yeah,
organization is in Portugal.
yeah. That's what I do anyway.
Right. Okay.
I work with people worldwide. I don't work with people just in Portugal. I have many people, for example, in many women from United States, many.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so yeah, yeah. And then, yes, then I'll tell them what to do. The things that I can't say in here because I can't, but then, this always has to do with planning.
Yeah.
Because sometimes it's not the right time. It's dangerous. Sometimes you cannot leave, as much as we know that, oh, that person has to leave. Well, we
Yes.
have to
I
see
mean,
them.
the problem is that the biggest, in my experience of speaking to people, the most riskiest time is as the person leaves or just after. Because if they're not in a place of safety, and probably somewhere up where they're hiding. And if they're then found by the perpetrator, then they're at very great risk. So it has to be something, from what I've witnessed in my experiences of working with women in these situations, they have to have the plan, like you said, and then they have to get to a place where they can't be found, where they can have a rest and get legal advice, because these people are often exhausted on many levels, often in a state of emotional and mental breakdown even. And they need to have somewhere where they can, first of all, just feel safe, and then have a little bit of time to just get everything clear. And they need someone to help them. This isn't normally something that women can do on their own.
Exactly.
So, you know, and there could be children involved, and
that's much worse. That is a big, when there are children involved, it's totally different, because they can, you see, if you go away with kids, the aggressor can actually press charges, because they're going to say that you kidnapped the kids. And then for you to prove that you were abused and that you scared, it's a nightmare to prove that, but they can easily prove that you kidnapped the kids.
Yeah, because there's a convention called the Hague Convention. And if you, I mean, earlier you were saying to have your passport and leave the country, which you can, you can do that if you don't have children. The only problem with that in this situation, if you have children, is if you take your children out of the country, you could,
it's kidnapping.
Yes, you can get into trouble with the Hague Convention of child abduction. So this is why you really need to have a plan. You need to have specialists that can help you to find a refuge, keep you safe while you work out all the legalities. Because in my experience, I have seen women leave countries to go back maybe to their home country with their children, because they were in some sort of domestic violence situation or abuse, only to be sent back by the legal system, because they're then told that they've committed child abduction. So we have to be very clear that you need to have professional advice, you know, before you countries with children, because the Hague Convention will override anything that you say about any abuse, because it has to be dealt with in the country that you have fled from. So I am aware of that legal process.
Exactly.
Anyway, Sandra, that's been a lot of information today, and I hope that anybody that has been listening that either knows somebody that could be helped by hearing what we've had to say, or maybe themselves, you know, has had a think and is thinking, maybe that's me, that they can reach out to you or to me.
Yeah, they can.
And I obviously refer to you if they feel they want to reach out to me as well. So what we'll do is we'll put all the links below this video on how you can reach Sandra and her organization in Portugal. And this will all be confidential. So if you email Sandra, everything will be kept confidential and dealt with with the highest discretion. Is there anything else that you'd like to say, Sandra, before we leave today?
Don't feel guilt. You know, I'm actually going to do those mugs. It's not your fault.
Yes. Yes, because that was my suggestion, because
I will do that.
One of Sandra's short videos that she's already put on her channel. We forgot to say, Sandra, your channel name on YouTube. What is it?
It's Sandra Lopes Relationship Mentor. That's the.
So when I've been helping Sandra get started on YouTube, and she had put out a short video called It's Not Your Fault. And I had actually suggested that that would make very good merchandise mugs with, it's not your fault on it. So maybe,
Yeah, I will make them. Yeah.
yeah, I think maybe in the future that is something that could help to spread the message,
Yeah,
to
because
people.
you see, Michelle, the thing is, and to finish what I have to say, I do have my patients. I have people that I work with. I have people that I work with now for 2 years, right? Every week they have an appointment with me, and the domestic violence started to come to me towards that people. They were patient looking for a psychologist because they thought something was off. So apart from that, then I start, and I do work with people when they have these women, when they have problems, and men also, of course, but when they have problems that they don't know what to do, and they need a plan, but they don't know where to start.
Yeah.
I don't tell anybody. I want to make this very clear. This is not my place to tell anybody what to do. I don't tell people what to do. I
Right.
just show them several ways, and I tell them what is the consequences if you go that path or what can happen. So I make things a bit clear to them, and obviously they're the last choice is them. They have to choose. They have to do, to make that step, because I can't make, for them, obviously.
Well, this is the same with spiritual development. So in the past, when I've been training people how to meet their angels, I can't make you meet your angel. You have to. What happens is I'll show you the steps and the process, and then you have to put in the steps to be able to do it. And I think what you're
Exactly.
saying is you can provide help to people, but they have to approach you and they have to be willing to be able to take the steps once you say to them, this is the way we can go forward.
Yeah, when they're ready as well. When they're ready. But that's exactly what I meant. Yeah.
Sandra, that's been a very interesting conversation that we've had today. And if we only reach maybe one person today with this interview,
Can be a lifesaver.
and then yes, it could definitely be a lifesaver, but also I consider that a success. And if anybody knows of anybody that they feel might need to have a plan, then again, you can contact us to find out. Well, particularly Sandra, not me so much, but you can contact Sandra to find out what you could possibly do, maybe as a friend or relative. I think you also have some fact sheets that you're putting together on what the flags are in these relationships, and I'm sure there'll be other tools that you'll be putting together on your new website.
Yeah, definitely.
And we'll be putting all of the information below this video so you can find the website, you can subscribe, and you can get the help or advice that you need. So thank you very much, Sandra.
Thank you. Thank you, Michelle. I do appreciate.
Yes,
Okay.
and enjoy the rest of your day.
You too. Thank you. And I hope everybody is well. And that's it. And reach out if you need help.
Thank you,
Okay.
Sandra.
Okay. Bye now. Bye.